So in my last video, you saw me building the casters or mobile base for this bandsaw. Now, this bandsaw belonged to the father of a friend and coworker of mine out in California. And on a visit a couple years ago, I was able to go spend some time with her dad, and he took me through his shop, which was a metalworking shop and a woodworking shop. He had restored some old classic cars. He had a whole room of model trains that just blew me away. And it was fun talking with him. And though apparently he was in the throes of some form of dementia, he could vividly remember all of those tools and using them, and this bandsaw in particular, which was built from a kit. Now, I introduced to you, if you hadn't heard about it, this company called Gilliom. And back after World War II, a gentleman named Lyle Gilliom designed quite a number of tools that you could build yourself. And he sold the plans in the back of Popular Science, Popular Mechanics magazine, and he sold kits. And you could buy any piece or part you wanted, or you could just build it all or source it all locally if you wanted to. Now, when I showed you that lathe drill press combination that came from the same company, I told you a bit more about this company, but one of the things that I'd always wanted was one of their bandsaws. They made the bandsaw in a couple different sizes, and this is the largest one, and as you can see, I just measured it, it's 6'2", not even taking into account the height of the mobile base that we built in the last video. I do want to read you real quick the letter that came along with this. It said, sending this card and bandsaw with love. I know you will have wonderful plans to rebuild it and create great things with love. Susan and my sibs, Alan and Linda, in honor of Don Boyer. And again, I think I'm pronouncing the last name correctly. And then down below that it says, although we are halfway to Christmas, and this was written on a Christmas card, I always wish you the very best. There is no one else on earth I'd rather bequeath this bandsaw. So she knew that I was a nerd about all these things, and I geeked out when I saw this bandsaw in her dad's shop. So let me show you some of the features of this, and then in the near future, it'll be restored and put to use. So the company, though, called Gilliom, made tools under the brand name Gil-Bilt, and there were two sizes of bandsaws. This is the illustration of the 12-inch bandsaw, and as you can see, you would build a stand to place this on. And the one behind me was built from this plan, and it's called an 18-inch bandsaw. And just so we're clear, when you hear those numbers, 18-inch, 14-inch, like the Delta, the Powermatic, those are very popular 14-inch bandsaws, what we're talking about is the size of the wheel. If we open this up, and measuring the diameter of this wheel, it is 18 inches. Now, 18 has nothing to do with the depth of cut, and it's roughly translatable to the throat capacity, but not exactly. Usually with a 14-inch bandsaw, you have somewhere around 13 inches of capacity. If you think about it from this side of the blade, you have capacity that's somewhat unlimited. But this is an 18-inch bandsaw. Most of this is made from wood and plywood. The kit that was sold by Gilliom, if you wanted to buy that, included a bunch of cast aluminum parts, including probably the most critical part here, and that is what's on the back side of the saw, which is the tensioning and the tilt adjustment. For bandsaws like this, unlike the Shopsmith bandsaw, you have to adjust the tilt of the upper wheel in order to get the blade to track properly. I say unlike the Shopsmith bandsaw. The Shopsmith bandsaw has auto tracking and a completely different approach to this. But you can see here that what my friend's dad had done with this is he wired into the cover a light fixture. We'll probably put some LEDs underneath here to mimic the same. He made the table as described in the plans, but then covered it with aluminum, giving it a smooth surface. Now, there's no miter slot in here like the original plans would have called for. And I don't know, I like this idea. I also like the idea of having a steel table, because then we can at least use magnets, and that may be something that we'll look to in the future. You can see here that Turning a couple knobs allow the upper guide to move up and down. And let's take a look down below and see where some of the magic takes place down there. A couple things that he changed on the design were the way that he attached the cover. The original design used some bolts and some knobs or wing nuts on the front, and he created these little L brackets and made some huge knobs, unfortunately one of which got bent in shipping. We will straighten that out. And down below here, I was pleasantly surprised to see that there are quite a number of bandsaw blades. Now, I don't know what condition any of these blades are in. I've already purchased some new blades from Timberwolf that will replace these. Let's get up here and take a look at how this table tilt mechanism works, as well as our motor. Now, how big is that motor? Well, we'll look into that later. So the lower wheel is mounted on a shaft with bearings on both ends, and there's another very large pulley, or a very large pulley on the back, that's driven by the belt and the motor below. There's a lower blade guide and bearing, and you can also see the trunnions that allow this table to tilt. Now, I have not tilted this table yet. I'm curious. Oh yeah, it still tilts. Nice. I wasn't sure if he would have eliminated that and made it just fixed at 90 degrees or not, and it's nice that it has that ability. Let's go take a look up. And from here you can see that it's got brass or bronze blade guides and a ball bearing. I've got replacement parts for all of these, and there you can see the trunnion. And here you can see again the upper bearing and guides. Now, he was using this as both a metal cutting and a wood cutting bandsaw, which would explain not only the metal particles in here, but the desire to have this metal tabletop. That does make a lot of sense. Now, I'm fairly confident that we're talking about bronze bushings up here. May very well have ball bearings. We'll check that out when we get to it. Now, something that is really unique about this bandsaw build is he didn't follow the patterns entirely, because this entire column originally would have been made of wood, but this has been reinforced with aluminum channel all over. So it's a very, very strong aluminum box that should help us when this blade is held under tension. Now, one of the things I noted was that this bandsaw appears to have almost completely tossed its lower tire, and the upper tire is very dry rotted. So in addition to the Timberwolf blades, while I was at it, I went ahead and bought polyurethane tires to replace these rubber tires. Now, you may have seen in a previous video, I installed these orange tires as well as the Blue Max tires on a Shopsmith bandsaw, actually on two Shopsmith bandsaws, and have yet to draw a strong opinion or conclusion as to which one is the better of the two. I personally feel like the blue ones are better, and I've enjoyed using them, and I like the way they went on, and I just like everything else about them. And then when I went to purchase these in the 18-inch size, the Blue Max were twice the price, and I don't like them that much more. So that's the reason why I've gone with the orange. Other than that, I typically would recommend the Blue Max. So in past videos, I have expressed my admiration to the folks at Magna Engineering for using a water pump bearing assembly throughout many of the tools, from the Mark V to the bandsaw, and on and on and on. And I have similar admiration for this design that Mr. Gilliom came up with, and that is this one casting right here is used to raise and lower the shaft that is holding the upper wheel, and that allows us to put tension then on the blade. But in addition, we've got a tilting mechanism right here, loosening this jam nut and then turning this bolt that passes through the jam nut will allow us to tilt that upper wheel, which will let us get that blade to track perfectly on that wheel. Now, what's cool is that this exact mechanism was used on both sides of the bandsaw, as well as a 6-inch belt sander that was also sold by the company. There are other folks that have used this whenever they needed support and tensioning. I've seen this used on a horizontal stroke sander one time that somebody built for themselves. So a neat little mechanism. These are oftentimes sold separately on eBay where people are parting out these machines. This is such a powerhouse part that it is in high demand. I want to thank Susan and her siblings for this. This was such an unexpected and delightful gift. And I've always wanted to build one of these, and I don't mind skipping that and just doing a little bit of cleanup and restoration and having one of my own. Susan even told me about some fond memories of her as a kid helping her dad paint this bandsaw, and I'm looking forward to maybe having the grandkids over to help me do the same. So thank you all. We'll get back to some Shopsmith content in the next video, but thanks for letting me take this little side trip. Make it a great day.